Hey YouTube, Repo Man 64. Getting closer and closer to the date that I think it is. And today's video is made possible by Sue Thew, T-H-E-W, Sue Thew. She is in Got a Minute's Discord, and they've created a room for her called the rabbit hole because she goes down these rabbit holes and finds some incredible stuff, and most of it goes over my head, but this particular one was really cool, and I'm going to talk about that today. Also dedicated to Wackadoodle Samoan. He has a Facebook. You can go look for Wackadoodle Samoan's Facebook page, and he does videos over there, and they have a lot of people in there talking about a lot of really cool stuff. So I'd go over there and see Wackadoodle Samoan. There's going to be a video tomorrow with Ken Potter and Wackadoodle Samoan at 11 a.m. So that's something to look forward to. I have to work till 2, so I won't be able to watch it until after that. So I want to get right to what Sue has found. Wackadoodle Samoan called me up, and we were talking. And he made a very good point, and that point is that with every event that happens, there's a time period in that event. So as I would say, as men, we kind of look at a pregnancy as you get pregnant and then you give birth, but there's a lot of different things that happen during that period of time. One of the final things that happens is a woman's water breaks, and then once the water breaks, typically the now I'm going to forget the birth pangs begin after the water breaks. She goes into labor after the water breaks, typically. So what event are we looking for right now? We know the Bible says that before she travailed, she delivered a son. And there is two different births that the Bible talks about. That one, and then the other one where after much travail, she delivered a son. Remember that there are two groups going to heaven, and there are two groups staying here. And there is a final group that's going to the lake of fire. The Bible teaches this through and through. Talks about the bride. Talks about the 144,000 who are going to be brought about to preach to and stop the tribulation saint from accepting the mark. The mark will come out after the rapture, after 3.5 years. So the 144,000, while they will be changed and they will have superhuman abilities here on earth, and they cannot die, they will usher in the greatest revival this planet has ever seen. The tribulation saint is a number which no man can count. It's huge. It's a huge number. And so I want to get right into this. Thank you, Sue, for what you've showed me. And I'm going to talk about it now. And thank you, Wackadoodle Samoan, for enlightening me on the water breaking and the time that it takes in between these segments that happen during pregnancy. It's not just pregnant and then delivery. There's a lot of things that happen in there. And I'm going to show you something that Sue found. We're going to go over here to pictures. Okay. I took several of them, and we'll just talk about them. Here on March 17th, which on the Enoch timeline is the first day of the year. This is New Year's Day. And this is how the planets are going to line up on New Year's Day. And I want you to notice Jupiter. This is the water bearer. Now in this, and I know there's several different stellariums that you can use. In this particular one that I use, you can see Jupiter is breaking through the water. I look at this as this water, the beginning of the water and the end of the water, as the Red Sea. This is the splitting of the Red Sea. And I'm going to show you something really cool that she found. She was talking about this. I couldn't figure it out until I actually went into Stellarium and looked at it for myself. You can see that Jupiter is breaking through the water. This is the end of the event, and that's March 17th. Here we have, you can barely see the water. Here we have the sun. Now, I don't know if you remember, but in the Bible, when it talks about them going across the Red Sea, there was a column of fire in front of them that lit the way through the Red Sea, and a column of smoke behind them that clouded the view of the soldiers that were after them to kill them. This event, as you can see here, I have it either March 4th or March 5th, depending on if you're in Israel or where you're at, but the sun is basically eclipsing Jupiter at this moment. And in the chat room on God a Minute, I posed the question, has this event ever happened before, where the sun eclipses Jupiter as Jupiter goes into the water from Aquarius? So you'll see there, the date is March 4th, 5th, right there. Come over here, and I got some more pictures. Again, March 17th, Jupiter is coming out of the water, and the sun is further ahead of it. And here, on the 5th, the sun is right over Jupiter coming into the water. So the water breaks. And for the next 12 days, Jupiter, the sun continues on ahead of it, just like in the Red Sea. The sun continues on ahead of it, and Jupiter makes its way through the water from Aquarius as he's pouring out, I guess, would be judgment. And I would imagine that judgment begins as we leave, and we're going to be born before she travails. Oh, this is a little conversation I was having with Sue Thew here over in God a Minute's chat room. This is Wackadoodle Samoan's Facebook page. You can go join that. There's a lot of awesome conversations in there about end times. And here we have where Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. This is Exodus 14:21. You read it for yourselves. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them in the midst of the sea, even all the Pharaoh's horses and his chariots and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning, I want you to notice up here at the top, it says at the night they went in, and by morning they had crossed. And in the morning, I lost my place. And in the morning watched the Lord, looked up unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud. So one side was the fire. Now we see in our picture back here that the fire is ahead of us, and behind us is the water. Thought that was a pretty cool find on Sue's part. Now here is March 17th. You can see that's the first day of the year. This is the day that Enoch was conceived, John was born, and Lazarus dies. And I just heard somebody stating that that is also the day that Noah was born. And that's the day that, and I'm not sure, I haven't researched that, but I heard somebody saying that, so I thought that was pretty cool. Now, we are coming into Purim on February the 28th. Now, this is the Enoch timeline. Coming into Purim on February the 28th. That is exactly 30 days before the cross. We go forward, and we see here that Lazarus was resurrected on March 20th, which is the equinox. 4 days earlier was the equilux. He spends 6 days. It records, the Bible records that he spent 6 days. He eats with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. And then 4 days before the cross, he rides into the east gate, the Golden Gate, and they throw palm branches, and everybody's screaming, Hosanna in the highest as he comes in. And then they crucify him here on Nisan 14, the 14th day of the first month. 3 days later, he resurrects. He spends 7 days with his bride. That's us. He spends 7 days with us. I believe that we go at a point, you saw that passage where it says that at nighttime they were crossing the water, and by morning they were there. So we have a picture of a time, a frame from evening to morning, and I would say that we would resurrect, the dead would resurrect, and we will rapture on the same day, in the same moment, on April the 2nd. Jesus will spend the day here till the afternoon, possibly even to the evening, and then he'll go up. Remember, the bride has to go first to get ready and everything else. The groom always shows up after the bride does. Then he spends 7 days with us, just like Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. His father-in-law told him, you give Leah her 7 days, and in 7 days you can have Rachel, but you will work another 7 years for her. Those 7 days are a, consummation. 7 days consummation. There's no doubt that they're married. There's a 7-day period of consummation. Jesus will return 7 days later on the self-same day to Thomas in the upper room. And then from that moment, you count 40 days. From the upper room, you count 40 days to when Jesus ascends. I want you to notice that all of that, the cross, the resurrection, and Thomas in the upper room, even second Passover, you can see second Passover on Iyar 14, all of that occurs before Israel turns 74. They are still 73. Like I said before, Betty White passed away. They will always tell you she was 99. Even though she was only 17 days away from her 100th birthday, nobody will ever say that she passed away when she was 100. Even if she passed away one day before she turned 100, they will tell you she was 99. Same thing here. Israel becomes a nation on May 14th, Iyar 29. I know that they're saying Iyar 5, and some years it does match up that way, but not on the Enoch timeline. On the Enoch timeline, this is when it matches up, on Iyar 29, May 14th. It never changes. Enoch timeline doesn't change. The days never change. This calendar can be used every single year with nothing changes. Sunday is never the first day of the week. That's the Gregorian concept. Day 1 is the first day of the week. Day 2 is the second day of the week, and so on. And that's why there is no named days of the week in here. Jesus ascends on, what does this say? May 18th, it looks like, Sivan 3. He ascends, and then 3 days later is Pentecost, where the Holy Spirit is sent here. So, here's the passage where it says, before, in Isaiah 66:7, before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Who hath heard of such a thing? Who have ever heard of such a thing? We say that, what dawned on me when I was talking to Wackadoodle Samoan and Sue is that the water breaks first. If there was no pain and she delivered right after the water breaks, the water must break first. And this event is, I believe, extremely rare, that Jupiter and the sun eclipses Jupiter in Aquarius. I wonder how often that has ever happened. How often has that ever happened where the sun eclipses Jupiter right there in Aquarius. And we know Jupiter represents Jesus because of the stripes and the wound in his side. So we believe Jupiter represents Jesus in this. So let's go on here. Typically, after your water breaks at term, labor soon follows. What if the water breaks and then we get raptured? Is it possible we could be raptured on March the 17th? I don't know. Or is it because it takes 12 days for the water to break in this scenario, does it take time up until April the 2nd before we are raptured out? And it would all coincide with Passover when Jesus resurrected. Day 1 of the year, or that's the last day of the year right here, where the square of Pegasus is on the horizon, and only in Israel can that be seen at 5:45 in the morning on March 16th every single year. This is the first day of the year. You'll notice Jupiter's right there because this is the same. It's just I just put in a different how do you call this, stellarium. Can't even think of the name where the people, the fish, the Pisces, all the different names of those. Again, same thing. Jupiter's following the sun. The sun is leading the way. Jupiter being us being raptured out. This is what I was talking about in the first of the video, is the bride is the church, and we are taken to the third heaven. We're the first fruits, and I believe at the same moment we are changed, that the 144,000 virgin Jewish males will be here to help the tribulation saints, which a number that no man can count. Huge, huge number. And then finally, the threshing room floor, the millennium reign. And I want you to notice something here that I've never noticed before. But as we go forward, like he said, seal up the words of this book, Daniel, for the end. I think it's been in front of us the whole time. But until we started putting these pieces of the puzzle together, we could never see it. It clearly says here, and I've never noticed this before, yet is there strength, that's the bride. Labor, that's the tribulation saint. Sorrow, that's the millennium. For it is soon cut off and we fly away. That's Psalms 90:10, at the end of 90:10. Everybody's read it, but nobody's noticed the three different categories that are happening there. Strength, we are saved by the strength of Jesus and Jesus alone. There is nothing that we've ever done that deserve it. He just decided to save us. The clay pot doesn't get to choose what is put into itself, whether it be water or fine wine. The clay pots just happen to be used in one way or another. Let's see here. Again, here, the rapture could not occur last year on Passover. I did this little timeline here, May 14th, 1948, and I did all the math all the way down. And you'll notice on May 13th of 2028, Israel is still 80 years old. I did that wrong. It's May 13th of 2029. Is it? Yeah, I did that wrong. May 13th of 2029, Israel is still 80 years old. One day later, it becomes 81. Just like Betty White, 17 days from her being 100, she was still 99. Israel will still be 80 years old by May 13th, 2029, and I think it all needs to be wrapped up by 2029 by May 13th. And we have this beautiful Song of Solomon, Song of Solomon 2:10. My beloved spake and said unto me, Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. So we'll come back here. When is winter officially over in Israel? It is officially over on March the 16th, And on March the 17th is the first day of the new year. Let me see something here, right here. I've showed you this many times before. This event only happened. This is what the Jews would have been looking at to begin their year prior to the Romans forcing them to look at the moon. They did that in 400 BC. Today we say, well, the Jews have been looking at this calendar for 2,400 years. That does not make it right. Satan has been trying to corrupt this calendar for a very long time. This is why when they tied ropes around the priests to go into the Holy of Holies, they died, because they did not know what the first day of the year is. I believe this is the last day of the year, March 16th. This indicates New Year's Eve, and the very next day would be New Year's Day. The square of Pegasus is seen in the northeast sky in Jerusalem. It rises on March 16th every year, with the star Elgenib appearing on the horizon at 5:45 a.m. just before sunrise, and it is the sign of the last day of the year, ending the winter season. I find it very interesting that 5:45 in the morning this happens just before sunrise, and they go to the tomb and find the tomb empty, and they arrive there just before sunrise. So are we looking at 5:45 in the morning on March 17th? I don't know. That's getting pretty down to the wire to say that. Could it be March 17th at 5:45 in the morning, or does that begin the scenario of all of these things that happen all the way up to the cross, and then we are resurrected and kept in heaven for 7 days to have the supper with the Lamb and receive our crowns and visit with him for 7 days, and then he returns to Thomas in the upper room? I don't know, but we're trying to figure it out. So there's just some pieces of information that I have. This is a timeline that I've worked on. When did I start? It was off by a few days last year. I think I had April 4th last year that I was looking at until I refined it down to April the 2nd. So anyway, RepoMan64, like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm going to put a link to the God a Minute Discord in the bottom so that you can come in if you find anything. It's so much easier to go in there and actually talk to somebody. They have a live chat going on almost all the time, and so much easier than trying to communicate through the comment section. Because it just takes forever to answer all the comments. I get hundreds of them, and I try to answer them. So, more importantly than this, there's nothing in the Bible that says if you don't know the exact day and hour that you're not going to heaven. That is not a salvational issue. This is just something fun, I think, that we do to try to figure this out. And while we go through it, we get to learn things, and we get to read from the Bible. And that's the most important part of all this, is that we get to study more about the Bible and learn about it. And what is the Bible itself? Well, it's Jesus. Jesus is the Word. The Word became flesh. And what are you doing when you study the Word? You're developing a very close relationship with your groom. You're learning more and more about him every single day. There are Christians walking around that know the Bible on its face value. And then there are those who are walking around who are getting into every little detail and every little nook and cranny. And I have a feeling we haven't even scratched the surface, but we're in there trying to figure it out. And this group of people is really excited when they find a new piece of information, just like all of us are. When Sue found that, I was like, what? That's crazy. That was an awesome find on her part. And then Matt says, he makes the comment, I'm like, it's not just pregnancy and then birth. There's a lot of stuff. I was like, oh, you know what? Same thing has to apply to this. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. Does the water break on, do we break through the Red Sea? Is that the Red Sea moment? The sun is leading our way through the Red Sea. And is that once the water breaks, is there a time period to make us to April the 2nd? I don't know. We're all trying to figure this out. But more importantly than anything I say is go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody. And accept the Lord into your heart. Um, this fig tree generation, time's running out. We literally have 3 more months. Otherwise, we have to rethink all this. But we literally have 3 more months until all of this makes no sense to us. I have a feeling that God didn't bring us down this path just to pull the carpet out from underneath us. I think that we're right on the cusp of a rapture. I think this is about to happen, and it could happen. It could happen now. There's nothing stopping it from happening now. Happening now. You know, the word I was looking for before, because you're all going to make comments, is constellations. I'm getting old, so I forget words. Constellation. So anyway, link at the bottom. Go to the Facebook page of Wackadoodle Samoan and go in there. It's a wonderful page, and he does videos in there and stuff. So go watch Ken Potter's video tomorrow with Wackadoodle Samoan. It's sure to enlighten everyone, and we get to learn more about our groom, and that is the most beautiful part of everything that we do here is we learn. We develop. By doing this, I believe this is what's called developing a relationship with our Father, is by investigating and trying to learn more about our groom, Jesus Christ. So, all right, Reaper Man 64, we will chat with you again later.